The city of Vera never slept. Lights shone across tall crystal towers. Hover ships flew between platforms and strange voices echoed through the streets. It was a world of aliens, each with colorful skin, glowing eyes and moving shapes. But even in this advanced world, children still wanted one thing. They wanted pets. Shops lined the streets, cages filled with soft glowing creatures. Some had wings of fire, some had tails like lightning, and others sang songs that made the air dance. The market was alive, full of noise, full of laughter, and full of begging children pulling at their parents' arms. Among the crowd walked a young alien girl named Lyra. Her skin shimmered pale blue under the city lights. Her bright eyes full of excitement. Beside her walked her older brother Cairn, taller, stronger, and always laughing at her. "Pick a normal one, Lyra," Cairn teased, pointing at a small, fluffy creature that wagged a tail of sparks. "That one will follow you. It will bark. It will play. That's what pets are for." But Lyra shook her head, her eyes searching, her heart restless. She wanted something different, something no one else had, something that would make her special. They walked deeper into the pet market, past the colorful cages, past the loud sellers, until they reached a darker corner. The noise grew softer, the lights dimmer. Here the cages were not decorated, here the air was heavy. "Come on. This place is boring," Cairn muttered. But Lyra's eyes had locked on something. In the shadows stood a cage larger than the others. Strong bars of black steel held it shut. Strange marks carved along the frame glowed faint red. Inside sat a figure, not glowing, not barking, not singing, just sitting. Lyra stepped closer, her breath caught. It was not an animal. It was not a creature. It was a boy. The boy had dark hair, messy and wild. His skin was pale compared to the glowing colors around him. His eyes sharp. Too sharp. They watched everything, the ground, the bars, the faces in the crowd. He did not blink often. He did not move much. But there was something alive inside those eyes. Something dangerous, something intelligent. "What is that?" Lyra whispered. Cairn laughed nervously. "That? That is no pet, that is a human." His voice dropped low as if the word itself was forbidden. Around them, a few aliens stopped to stare. Whispers spread quickly. "A human? In a cage? Dangerous, they say humans are clever. More clever than machines. They should not be sold. It is not safe." The seller, a tall alien with silver scales, stepped forward quickly, his voice smooth but firm. "Ah, young lady, I see your eyes, but that one is not for children." Humans are not like other pets. They do not obey. They do not break, they watch, they wait. But Lyra did not move. Her small hand gripped the cage bar, and the boy lifted his head slowly, his eyes met hers. For a moment the whole market felt silent. He did not growl, he did not beg. He only whispered in broken alien tongue, "Not pet." Lyra's heart raced. She did not know if it was fear or excitement, but she knew one thing. She wanted him. "I want this one," she said loudly. The crowd gasped. Even Cairn's mouth fell open. "Lyra, are you mad?" "This is not a toy. This is not safe." The seller shook his head quickly. No, choose another. Choose one that sings, one that shines." Not this, but Lyra's voice was steady. Her eyes locked on the boy. "I want him." Cairn pulled her arm. "He will hurt you." But Lyra only smiled, a smile full of challenge. "Then let him try." The seller hesitated. Fear in his eyes, but money had its own power. The deal was made. The cage was unlocked. Strange chains clicked around the boy's wrists. He was led out slowly. The crowd whispered again, some in fear, some in awe. A child had taken a human as a pet. As they walked away, Cairn muttered, "This is madness, sis. You wanted a pet. But what you brought home is something else." "Something wrong?" Lyra glanced at the boy walking beside her. Silent, sharp, watching everything, she whispered to herself. "Not wrong. Just different." The boy did not speak again. But his eyes never rested, his steps were steady, his gaze cold. He was not a pet, not an animal, he was something more. The city lights glowed around them. But in that moment, in that silent walk, Lyra had no idea what she had truly taken home. And in the boy's dark eyes, a secret burned. A secret that would change everything. The house of Lyra's family was built on a floating platform above the glowing river of Vera. Tall glass walls looked out to the stars, and machines moved silently through the rooms. Doors opened on command. Lights shifted with a whisper. It was a safe place, a place of comfort. But tonight it felt different. The pet had come home. The human boy, Ethan, walked between Lyra and Cairn, his step slow but steady. The chains around his wrists glowed faintly, made from alien energy, strong strong enough to hold wild beasts. He did not fight them, he did not cry, he only looked. Every corner of the house, every machine, every family member. His eyes studied all of it, silent, cold, sharp. Lyra's parents stood waiting, their expressions tight. Their voices sharp. "What is this, Lyra?" Her mother demanded. "You said you wanted a pet, a small one, harmless, and you bring this human." Her father shook his head. His glowing eyes narrowed. "This is dangerous. Humans are not pets, they are predators, they are thinkers," but Lyra stood tall. Her chin lifted. "He is mine now, I chose him," she said. Her voice firm. "He is not dangerous. He is just different," Karen groaned loudly. "Different? He already looks like he's planning something, look at him." Ethan turned his gaze slowly toward Karen. His eyes did not blink. His face gave no smile. No frown, only silence. A shiver ran down Karen's back. The family had no choice, the deal had been sealed. The pet had been bought. The law allowed it. And so Ethan was placed in a small glass room. A cage inside the house meant for rare animals. Glowing walls that hummed softly. Lyra pressed her face against the glass. Watching him. "Do you understand me?" she asked softly. The boy looked at her, his lips parted, the words heavy, broken. Not pet." Her eyes widened, excitement and fear mixed together. "Then what are you?" she whispered, but he said no more. He simply sat down, folding his arms across his knees, his eyes never leaving the walls, the doors, the machines above him. That night the house grew uneasy. While the family slept, lights flickered. Doors clicked as if someone had touched them. Machines paused for half a breath before continuing. It was small, almost nothing, but enough to disturb, enough to make the house feel alive. Karen woke in the dark, his heart pounding. He swore he heard footsteps. Soft and careful, he rushed to the glass room, but Ethan was inside, sitting silently, his eyes open, watching, always watching. "Creepy," Karen muttered, turning away. But the feeling stayed. The next day, Lyra brought him food. Glowing fruits, soft bread from the market. He did not eat, he only pushed it aside, his voice quiet. "Not food, what do you eat then?" she asked curiously. He pointed to the kitchen machines, to the meat being cooked for her father. "That," he said firmly. Her parents refused at first, but hunger broke rules. Soon Ethan was given proper food and he ate carefully, every bite measured, not like an animal but like a soldier preparing for something. Days passed and the pattern continued. Ethan never barked, never obeyed commands like other pets. He never played with toys, he only watched, learning, memorizing. He watched the door codes when her father entered. He watched how the machines hummed before the lights turned off. He even watched the stars outside, tracing paths with his finger on the glass. Lyra grew more curious, drawn to the mystery. She began sneaking into his room when her parents slept. "Why do you stare so much?" she whispered one night. Ethan looked at her, his eyes deep, too deep for a child to understand. "Learning," he said simply. "What are you learning?" Everything. She felt a chill, but also a spark of awe. One night she followed him secretly. Because she woke to find his glass door open, he moved silently, the chains on his wrists no longer glowing. He must have found a way to disable them. His steps were soundless, his breathing steady. He walked through the house as if he owned it, as if he had always lived there. His fingers touched machines lightly, almost gently, and doors opened without sound. Lyra gasped softly, but he turned and caught her, his eyes locking with hers. She froze, fear flooding her chest. But he did not attack, he did not shout. He simply lifted a finger to his lips, a signal for silence. Together they walked to the great glass wall, the stars shining beyond, and Ethan placed his hand on the glass. His voice soft, filled with longing. "Home," he whispered. Lyra tilted her head. "Where is your home?" He pointed upward to the endless night sky. "Not here," he said, "but—" "I protect," she frowned. "Protect who?" He looked at her then, his eyes no longer cold but burning with quiet fire. "You." The words shocked her, confused her, but also touched something inside her heart. From that night, Lyra understood he was no pet, no toy, no possession. He was something else, something waiting. And yet, deep in her mind, a question grew: if he was watching, if he was learning, if he was protecting, then from what? The answer had not come yet, but the shadows in his eyes promised it soon would. The house of Lyra's family slept in silence. Machines hummed gently. Lights dimmed low. The floating platform drifted smoothly over the glowing river. It was meant to be a night of peace, but peace was not what lived in the shadows. Ethan was awake. He sat in his glass room, eyes wide open, listening, the sound of machines ticking, the faint vibration of the walls, the breathing of each family member in their rooms. He knew it all. He had learned it all. When the night grew deepest, when the city lights dimmed to their lowest glow, he stood, his chains no longer binding him, the glass door no longer sealed. He stepped out as if the walls had never been there. His feet made no sound, his shadow merged with the dark. He moved like someone who had done this many times before, like a hunter, like a soldier. He did not run, he did not rush, he walked with purpose, each step toward something only he knew. But he was not alone. Lyra woke suddenly, her eyes wide, her heart racing, she did not know why, but something called her out of bed. She padded silently to the hall, her small feet cold on the smooth floor, and there she saw him. The human boy was out again, free. Moving like smoke through the house, she gasped softly, covering her mouth. But Ethan heard it, his head turned. His sharp eyes caught hers. For a long second they stared. She thought he might drag her back. She thought he might attack, but instead, he simply lifted a finger to his lips again. The silent signal, do not speak. Curiosity stronger than fear. She followed, keeping distance, hiding behind corners, peeking when he moved. Ethan entered the kitchen first, his hands brushing over machines, his eyes tracing wires. He pressed his palm against the wall, whispering something in his own language. The machine flickered for a moment. As if confused, then returned to normal, he moved on. Into the control room where the floating platform's engines were monitored. Again he touched the glowing panels, and again they flickered faintly. It was as if he was learning their language, as if the machines themselves were talking to him. Finally he stopped at the great glass wall, the stars vast beyond. He pressed his hand against the glass and whispered, "Home," his voice carrying pain. Longing and fire. Lyra stepped closer this time. Too curious to hide. "Then why do you always look at the stars?" she asked softly. Ethan turned, his eyes softer than before but still burning. "Because I remember," he said. "Remember what?" she asked, her voice trembling. He hesitated, the words heavy in his mouth. "Remember freedom, remember war, remember loss." Lyra frowned, the words strange, too big for her. But she felt the weight like a shadow pressing the air. Ethan pointed upward. "My people, not pets. Not animals, they fight, they survive. Always." She tilted her head. "Then why are you here in a cage?" His eyes grew dark, his jaw tight. "Because you're people. Forget they think humans weak, they think humans toys, but humans, never toys." For the first time, fear touched her. The way he said it, the way his eyes glowed, she understood he was not small, not weak, he was dangerous. But then he knelt, lowering his gaze to her level, his voice softer now. "Not danger for you, Lyra. Danger for all?" She blinked, confused. "Danger? From who?" He looked back at the stars, his eyes narrowing. "Others, not me, others. Coming." The words made her skin crawl. She did not know what he meant, but she knew he believed it. Suddenly a sound echoed outside, far away, like thunder breaking across the sky. Ethan stiffened instantly, his body tense, his head snapping toward the sound. "What is it?" she asked, her voice small. Ethan whispered, "Test." Then he closed his eyes and breathed deep, like a soldier readying for battle. Lyra stepped back, the fear growing stronger. But also something else, something strange. She felt safer near him, as if the danger outside was far worse than the danger inside. That night she returned to bed, but she did not sleep. Ethan's words repeated in her mind. "Others. Coming the next morning," she tried to tell her brother. But Cairn only laughed. "He's just messing with you. Trying to scare you, that's what humans do. They trick." But deep down, Lyra knew. Ethan's voice had no lies, only warning. From then on, she watched him more closely, not as a pet, not as a toy, but as something else, a secret in her house, a shadow with burning eyes. And though she did not understand it yet, she had taken home more than a companion. She had taken home the first spark of a storm that was already moving in the dark sky above. The secret was not only Ethan, the secret was the future, and it would not stay hidden for long. The next days in the city of Vera were not normal. Strange news spread through the glowing streets. Voices whispered in the market, and fear grew inside every home. Reports came from other districts. Humans that had been kept in cages, sold as pets, displayed as curiosities, were breaking free. Some vanished into the shadows of the city. Some attacked their owners. Some simply disappeared under the stars. The officials of Vera spoke on the broadcast screens, their voices strong but uneasy. "Citizens, be alert. Humans are clever. They are not like pets, they remember. They plan. They are loyal only to themselves. In Lyra's home, the words filled the air. The family sat in silence. Her father's hands clenched, her mother's eyes sharp. Cairn pacing like a restless animal. "This is madness," her father muttered. "We should return him before it is too late." Her mother nodded quickly. "Yes, before he does the same, before he breaks loose." Cairn pointed at Ethan's glass room. "Look at him. He is waiting. You can see it in his eyes. He's no pet. He's a storm." But Lyra shook her head, her voice soft but steady. "No, he is not like the others," her father snapped. "And how do you know?" Lyra turned to the boy behind the glass. His eyes met hers, calm but burning. "Because he told me," she whispered. The family stared at her in shock. "You spoke to it?" Her mother gasped. Lyra nodded slowly. "He said he is not the danger. He said something else is coming." Silence fell, heavy and sharp. Her father slammed the table. "Lies. Humans always lie. That is why they are locked. That is why they are chained." But Ethan stood then, stepping closer to the glass, his voice low but clear. "Not lie." The room froze, his words heavy, carrying weight far greater than his small frame. Lyra's mother backed away, fear rising. "It speaks too well. It knows too much," her father growled. "You will be returned, human. Tonight." But Ethan shook his head slowly, his dark eyes never leaving theirs. "Too late," he whispered. "Danger here now?" The family exchanged uneasy glances. The air in the house seemed colder, as if his words carried truth that night. As the family argued in whispers, the sky above the city burned with sudden light. Streaks of fire cut across the stars. Alarms screamed through the floating platforms. The broadcast screens flared red. Unknown ships approaching. All citizens prepare, shields up, defenses ready. Panic filled the streets. The hum of machines turned to wails. Cairn rushed to the window, eyes wide with fear. "What is that?" Ethan's gaze lifted calmly to the burning sky, his voice steady. "They come." "Who?" Lyra begged, her heart pounding. "Hunters," Ethan said, his voice like steel. "Not for you, not for me, for all." The ground shook faintly. Explosions echoed in the distance. The city's shields flickered weakly under heavy fire. Her father turned pale. "This cannot be happening." "The city has never been attacked," Ethan spoke again, his tone sharp, commanding. "Listen, your walls, your machines, they will break. Your leaders, they are weak, they never fight. They hide." He pointed at himself, his voice rising. "But humans fight. Always we survive, always." The family stared at him, torn between fear and desperate hope. Lyra pressed closer to the glass. "What do we do?" she whispered. Ethan's lips curved into something close to a smile. Not of joy, but of readiness. "Free me." Her father roared. "Never." "He will turn on us." But outside, the sky screamed again. Louder, closer. The walls shook, the lights flickered. The sound of distant towers collapsing reached their ears. Lyra turned to her parents, her voice desperate. "If we don't, we die. If we do, maybe he saves us." Cairn stared at the human boy, sweat running down his face, his voice low. "Look at him, father. He's not afraid. He's waiting for this." Ethan's eyes locked on Cairn. "Yes," he said. "I was born for this." The decision hung heavy in the air. The family frozen between fear of the human inside and fear of the invaders outside. Another explosion rocked the city. Glass shattered in the distance, alarms blared, and the broadcast voice screamed, "Shields failing! All units retreat." The choice could no longer wait. Lyra's small hand pressed against the release panel, her voice trembling but brave. "He is not our pet. He is our only chance." The locks hissed, the glass door opened. The chains on his wrists fell away with a spark. Ethan stepped out, straightening slowly, his eyes burning brighter now, not with cold silence, but with fire. He looked at Lyra, his voice soft but strong. "You chose right." Then he turned to the sky. Fists clenched, his voice sharp. "Now!" "I fight." The night sky above Vera was no longer peaceful. The stars had vanished behind fire. Flames streaked across the heavens like angry comets. Alien warships cut through the air, dark and sharp, their engines screamed. Their weapons lit the city in bursts of red and blue. The floating platforms shook. Glass towers cracked. Alarms screamed across every street. Citizens ran in chaos. Some jumped into air shuttles. Others hid in shadows, but nowhere was safe. The city was under attack. Lyra clung to her brother as the walls trembled. Cairn's face was pale. Their parents shouted orders that made no sense, but all of them kept looking at the human boy. Ethan, the one who had warned them. He stood tall now, his wrists free, his eyes burning with a strange calm. He did not look like prey. He did not look like a toy. He looked like someone who had been waiting for this moment his whole life. "They break your shields, they tear your towers," Ethan said, his voice steady. "They are stronger than you, but not stronger than me." Cairn stared at him, shaking his head. "You can't fight ships. You're only one human." Ethan turned his gaze on Cairn, a half smile on his lips. "One human is enough," he whispered. The platform shuddered again. A blast tore through a nearby tower. Glass rained like falling stars. Lyra cried out as heat washed through the house. Her father grabbed her arm. "Stay inside," he shouted. But Ethan stepped forward.
"No," he said sharply. "Inside is death."
Outside is fight. Before anyone could stop him, he ran, his steps fast and sure. He leapt through the broken wall, onto the open streets of the floating platform. Lyra gasped and followed to the edge. Her heart pounded as she watched him. The boy who had been locked in a cage, now moving like fire through the night above. Enemy ships dropped machines onto the streets. Dark metal beasts with glowing red eyes. They charged forward, tearing through crowds, their weapons slicing the air. Ethan moved without fear. He grabbed a broken metal pipe from the ground, spun it in his hands, and struck the first machine across the head. The metal beast sparked and fell. Another lunged at him. He rolled under its attack, leapt onto its back, and with bare hands ripped wires free. The beast collapsed in a shower of sparks. Lyra's family stood frozen at the shattered window, watching in disbelief. The human boy fought like no alien soldier they had ever seen. Fast, brutal, clever. He used the enemy's own weapons, turned their strength against them. More machines dropped from the ships, but Ethan only grew faster, his eyes burning brighter, his movements sharper. He was not only surviving, he was winning. Lyra pressed her hands against the glass, her voice trembling. "He's not fighting for himself. He's fighting for us." Her mother shook her head in shock. "No, he's supposed to be an animal, a beast in chains." "But look at him," Cairn whispered. "He's a soldier." As the battle raged outside, Ethan shouted toward the house. "Your machines, your weapons, show me." Her father hesitated, but Lyra grabbed his arm. "He can use them. Give him the codes." The ground shook again. Another explosion tearing through the nearby tower. Her father's fear cracked. He gave the access codes, and Ethan rushed to the city's defense consoles. His hands moved quickly as if he had done this 1,000 times. He bypassed security, activated defense turrets, rerouted shield power. The city's weapons turned against the invaders. For the first time, the sky lit not only with enemy fire, but with resistance. Turrets roared. Missiles streaked upward. The invader ships reeled under the sudden counterattack. Lyra's breath caught as she watched Ethan, a boy who was supposed to be her pet, now leading the fight to save her world. Cairn muttered, "Aliens could not stop them." "But one human can." Her father's face grew pale. "The officials were right. Humans are dangerous." "But not because they destroy, because they lead." The battle roared louder. Streets burned, platforms cracked. But Ethan never stopped moving. He fought, he hacked, he led. When the largest enemy ship descended, its shadow darkening the entire district, everyone froze, everyone screamed. But Ethan only raised his head. His eyes narrowed and he whispered, "Now, it ends." He leapt onto a fallen machine, climbed higher and higher, until he reached the energy cannon mounted on the roof. He aimed it at the massive ship, his voice sharp. "Fire!" The blast tore the sky. The enemy ship shook. Flames spread across its hull. It roared as it fell back into the clouds. The city erupted in cries of shock and hope. For the first time, the invaders were forced to retreat. Ethan dropped down, covered in ash and sparks, his chest rising and falling, but his eyes still sharp, still burning. Lyra ran to him, her voice full of awe. "You saved us." He looked at her, his voice quiet but firm. "No," he said, "not yet." This was only the beginning. Above them, the clouds still glowed with fire. The sky was not safe. The war had only started, but in that moment, every alien who saw him, every citizen who survived, knew one thing. Humans were not pets. They were protectors. They were warriors. And Ethan was proof. The city of Vera still burned. Smoke rose from shattered towers. Platforms cracked and tilted over the glowing river. Alarms echoed like cries of pain. And yet for a moment there was silence. The invader ships had pulled back, not destroyed, not gone, but wounded. They circled the skies above the clouds, waiting, watching, like predators planning their next strike. Inside the broken home of Lyra's family, fear hung heavy. Her mother held her close. Her father paced with shaking hands. Cairn stared out the broken wall, And in the center of it all stood Ethan. His chest was marked with dust, his hands burned with cuts, but his eyes burned brighter than any wound. He stood not as a prisoner, not as a pet, but as a warrior. "You fought them," Lyra whispered, her voice trembling with awe. "You saved us," Ethan looked at her. His face calm, his words sharp. "I saved no one yet. They will come again, stronger, faster, they do not stop." Her father growled, slamming his fist against the wall. "This is not our fight. We should hide, we should run." But Ethan shook his head, his voice steady. "There is no hiding, no running, not for you, not for me." He pointed upward. "They hunt until nothing is left." The words made Lyra's stomach twist. She had never felt so small, so powerless. But when she looked at Ethan, she felt something else. A strange warmth, a strange strength. Cairn stepped forward, his voice low, his pride broken. "You could have left us, you could have run when the cage opened. But you didn't, why?" Ethan's eyes locked on him, no hesitation, no lie. "Because humans choose," he said. "We do not obey like pets. We do not kneel like slaves, we choose. And I chose to fight beside you." The room went silent, his words cut deeper than any weapon. He was no pet, no animal. He was a companion, a fighter who had decided to protect them. Suddenly the house shook again. A smaller ship broke through the clouds, dropping metal beasts onto the streets below. The war was not finished. The family cried out, fear rising once more. But Ethan's body tensed with fire, his voice sharp. "Stay behind me!" The machines charged into the district, blades cutting the air, eyes glowing red. They tore through walls, searching for survivors. One beast smashed through the lower platform of the house. The floor cracked, the wall splintered. The family screamed, but Ethan was already moving. He grabbed a fallen shard of metal, leapt toward the beast, and with brutal speed, drove the shard into its chest. Sparks exploded, the machine fell. Another beast lunged at Cairn. The boy froze, fear locking his legs. But Ethan dashed forward, shoving Cairn aside. The machine's blade slicing only empty air. Ethan spun and crushed its head against the wall. Cairn lay on the ground. His eyes wide, his chest heaving, Ethan stood above him, his hand outstretched, pulling him up. "You live because I stand," Ethan said. Not angry, not kind, just truth, for the first time. Cairn's voice shook with respect. "You saved me." Ethan nodded once, then turned back to the fight. More beasts swarmed, but Ethan was a storm. He ripped one apart with his bare hands, turned another's weapon against itself, and shouted commands to the family. "Stay low! Move left! Wait for my signal!" The aliens obeyed, not because he was their pet, not because he was their owner, but because his voice carried power, because he led with strength, and because he chose to protect them. Together they survived the wave. The last machine fell in a burst of sparks, and silence returned once more. The family gathered in the wreckage, breathless, shaking, but alive. Her mother stared at Ethan, her voice trembling. "You are not what they told us, not a beast, not a danger, you are." Ethan looked at her, his face unreadable, but his words soft. "I am human." Lyra's eyes filled with tears. She stepped closer, her small hand touching his arm. "You're more than human. You're our protector." For the first time, Ethan's face softened. His eyes flickered with something rare, a shadow of warmth. He looked at Lyra and said, "Not protector. Companion." The word struck deep. Because it was true, he was not there by force. He was there by choice. He had become part of them above. The sky rumbled again. The larger ship shifted. The clouds burned with fire. The invaders were not gone, only waiting. Ethan looked upward, his jaw tight, his voice low. "They will return, but next time they will fear me." The family followed his gaze, and for the first time, instead of fear, they felt hope. They no longer saw a pet in chains, they saw a companion who stood taller than any wall. A human who chose to fight. A human who turned weakness into strength. The war was not over, but with Ethan beside them, they were no longer helpless, they were no longer prey. They were something new. Together, they were ready to face the storm. The fires of Vera still smoldered. The sky no longer burned with endless flame. But smoke still drifted over the floating platforms and towers still leaned. Broken like cracked glass, the city was alive, but wounded, its people shaken, its leaders silent. And in the middle of the wreckage, Ethan stood with Lyra and her family. The last of the enemy ships had pulled back into the clouds. Not destroyed, not defeated, only delayed, and every soul in the city knew. This was not victory, only survival. Inside the shattered home, the family gathered, their clothes torn, their faces pale, but their eyes never left the human boy. The one who had been brought as a pet, but had fought as a warrior. Her mother spoke first, her voice quiet, still trembling. "You saved us." Her father's hands tightened. He looked at Ethan with caution, but also with respect. "We misjudged you," he admitted. "We thought you were weak, something to own. But you are stronger than us," Cairn, who once laughed at his sister's choice, now lowered his head, his voice rough. "You saved my life. I will never forget." Ethan stood silent, his eyes sharp, his body steady despite the battle wounds. He did not nod. He did not bow, but his voice came soft. "I did not fight because you own me. I fought because I chose." The words echoed through the broken room, simple but heavy, because they carried the truth. The lesson none of them could deny. Humans were not pets, not toys, not slaves. They were companions if they wished, and when they chose to fight, they fought with fire that no chain could hold. Lyra stepped forward, her small hand reaching for Ethan's arm, her voice gentle but strong. "Then I am glad you chose us." For the first time since he came to their home, his eyes softened. The shadow of a smile touched his lips, and he whispered, "Not pet, not prisoner. Friend." The word warmed her heart. It erased fear, it built trust, and she nodded, "Yes, you are family now." The silence in the room grew softer, no longer heavy with fear, but filled with something new, a fragile hope. Yet outside, the sky rumbled again. The enemy ships still circled, and the whole city knew they would return. Ethan's gaze lifted upward, his eyes narrowing, his voice low. "They will come back, and not only here, they will spread." From world to world, the family froze, fear creeping back into their hearts. "Can we stop them?" Cairn asked, his voice trembling. Ethan's answer was calm, but sharp like steel. "Yes, but not with cages, not with fear, with strength. With unity." He stepped closer to the great glass wall, the stars still visible beyond the smoke, and he whispered to himself, words almost too soft to hear. "Humans will be ready." Lyra heard it. Her chest tightened, for she realized something deep. Ethan was not only speaking of himself, but of others like him, hidden, waiting, not pets, not prey, but warriors scattered among the stars. The thought sent shivers down her spine. The idea that her people had caged something far greater than they understood, something that would not remain caged forever. Her father stepped beside her, his voice heavy. "What will you do now, human?" Ethan turned, his eyes clear, his jaw tight. "I will stay until the next wave. I will fight. I will protect. But after, I will find the others." "The others?" her mother asked, confused. Ethan nodded slowly, his voice carrying certainty. "My kind, they are here. They are hidden. They are waiting. And when the time comes, we will rise together." The words carried power, a promise, a warning, and the family felt it deep in their bones that night. When the fires dimmed and the city slept uneasy, Lyra lay awake, her eyes on the stars, her thoughts heavy, her heart alive. She thought of the boy in the cage, the boy she had called a pet, the boy who had saved them all, and she whispered to herself, "He is not a pet. He is more than a friend. He is the reason we are still alive." And somewhere in the distance, high above the clouds, the enemy ships shifted, their lights burning, their engines humming, waiting for the next strike. But this time, they would not find a city of prey. They would find humans among them, not chained, not broken, but ready. The lesson had been learned. A dangerous truth now burned in the hearts of Vera. Humans were never pets, never slaves. They were companions when they chose, and protectors when it mattered most. And Ethan, the human once locked in a cage, now stood as proof, a shadow of war, a spark of hope, a reminder whispered into the night sky. Others will come. But humans will be ready.